Hi, welcome to Kiss Me, where we dive into all of our favorite rom-coms. I'm Andy H, and today we'll be looking at Edward Scissorhands, released in 1990. Directed by Tim Burton, Edward Scissorhands was the third movie to complete his hat trick of 3 amazing movies in 3 years, following Beetlejuice in 88 and Batman in 89. Man, Mr. Mum was on a good run. I'm so surprised that Michael Keaton was not casted in Edward Scissorhands. The idea of the movie all stemmed from a sketch that Tim Burton made in high school. Caroline Thompson developed the script with Danny Elfman composing the score, also including 3 Tom Jones songs, including It's Not Unusual. Let's Go Carlton. Initially, the movie was destined to be a musical, but instead that was later deferred to a Burton-Depp collab in Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street in 2007. The movie budget was $20 million, which sliced and diced $86 million in the box office. Due to the threat of robbing the movie of its purity, no sequel was ever made. However, Depp reprised Edward for a 2012 Family Guy episode, and Winona Ryder starred as Kim, with son Edgar, played by Timothy Chalamet, in a 2021 Super Bowl commercial. The movie revolves around Edward, an unfinished creation, dark-clothed protagonist with scissors for hands, who enters into a candy-colored suburbia, bringing the audience along to feel his new and raw emotions. The film is meant to be seen through Edward's fantastical and pure eyes, providing a visual smorgasbord. The movie was filmed on location in Lutz, Florida, and yes, they actually painted the homes. This genre is hard to classify, just like Edward himself, and the never-ending debate, is he an artificial human or is he a robot? It's a hybrid of genres of sci-fi, horror, to some calling it an action movie. Well, I wouldn't go that far. This is also a romantic comedy, with some eerie moments, finding it the right rom-com to watch around Halloween, or, well, anytime. It is a bittersweet, witty movie that speaks to isolation, fitting in, and acceptance. It's all about being true to yourself, love does not always prevail, and there'll be bullies everywhere, but also kind souls.
Good, isn't it?
Alright, so let's get into it. We see an elderly woman on a snowy night staring out of a window looking at a dark Gothic mansion on top of a distant hill. Her granddaughter asks, "Why is it snowing?" To which the woman replies, "All starts with scissors," which was much to the audience's surprise. I promise I won't get into rhyming much, but since this is Tim Burton, I just couldn't resist. We then hear of a man called Edward, that he had all kinds of scissors for hands. Jeez, this took a dark turn. Just the perfect kind of bedtime story every little kid dreams about. We then learn of the mansion, and that an inventor lived there, made many things, and created a man, and tried to give him everything, but the inventor died before he was complete. Sounds a bit like Frankenstein, right? But wait, the story continues as we venture into a sunny, mid-century suburbia setting. Think Sherwin-Williams threw up in pastel. We then meet Peg Boggs, played by Dianne Wiest,
Avon calling,
who tried to sell Avon to Helen, played by the late Conchata Farrell, later known for her role in 2.5 Men. It shows how hard it is to be an Avon seller, as Peg is not only turned down by Helen, but also Joyce, played by Kathy Baker, who is clearly too busy with the plumber. As Peg gets back into her car, we see her checking out her reflection in the mirror and focuses on the dark, ominous mansion behind her and heads up the hill, because clearly someone in this abandoned mansion needs some makeup and some skin so soft products. As Peg enters through the gates, we see these beautiful gardens with green topiaries. Peg knocks and waits and then pushes open the door and walks in saying, "Avon calling." As Peg enters, we see Tim Burton's artistic interior design in the staircase, windows, and dark figures, including a nod to the character Oogie Boogie in The Nightmare Before Christmas, was later released in 1993. Also, if you look carefully in the corner, you can see a shadow of someone peeking out to see who is there, as I would hightail it out of there. Peg continues and makes her way up the grand staircase to the attic, where there's newspapers and magazine clippings draping the fireplace. Peg then becomes startled by a figure in the corner, and they approach each other. We learn that this timid and scared creature is Edward, played by Johnny Depp. Depp was 26 at the time and best known as a TV heartthrob in 21 Jump Street. He continued to make 7 additional movies with Tim Burton along his path to uber stardom. Peg, telling Edward not to be afraid, asks him where his parents, mother, and father are, and we soon find out that his father
didn't wake up.
Peg, with all of her empathy for Edward's exterior and interior, starts to haul out her antiseptic from her trusty Avon bag and clean Edward's wounds, declaring for him to come home with her. We then see Peg in her 1974 Plymouth Duster with Edward in the passenger seat, fully immersed into the suburbia, gawking out the window like a dog, not sure how to behave in a car. When Thompson wrote Edward's character, she was actually influenced by her own dog, who was loyal and always curious. Hey, check out that little boy in the slip inside. That's Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys. The neighborhood busybody wives notice Peg's new visitor and start the rotary phone gossip mill. Oh, how we just take group texts for granted nowadays. We make it back to Peg's home, and we are introduced to the Boggs family through picture. Peg's husband, Bill, played by Alan Arkin, son Kevin, played by Robert Oliveri, aka Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Kevin was initially rumored to be played by Kevin McAllister, aka Macaulay Culkin, but he was a bit tied up doing Home Alone, which was just released the month before in 1990. And we are introduced to daughter Kim, played by Winona Ryder. We then see Edward's eyes lock on Kim's picture, with admiration, or perhaps familiarity, as Depp and Ryder were actually engaged in real life to later split in 1993. Peg grabs some of Bill's old clothes for Edward to cover his leather bondage attire, which was actually rumored to be made from real leather from Burton's couch, and finds himself in Kim's room. Depp, who says less than 150 words in total, really shines here in the next couple of scenes. Depp's inspiration for Edward was not only after Thompson's dog, but influenced by the great Charlie Chaplin silent movie acting and comic delivery. Edward, confused at his reflection in the mirror, becomes startled to end up cutting himself and springing a leak in the waterbed. The comedic relief further continues as we see him trying to struggle to put on his pants, his shirt, and finally his suspenders to only end up cutting them. This set of scenes is one of my favorites for the movie. It is pure comic genius, as it was well done by Depp, giving more innocence to his character. Tom Cruise was initially approached to play Edward, but apparently asked too many questions about the character. Other actors considered included Robert Downey Jr., Jim Carrey, and Tom Hanks. Imagine how different this movie would have been. We then see the suburbia husbands returning from work as the Boggs family, minus Kim, as she's out camping with her friends, are eating dinner. We meet Bill and Kevin, where Bill continues to call Edward Ed. Kevin wants to take Edward for show and tell at school, and Edward almost manages to pick up a pee. The Boggs continue to help Edward by Peg trying to order Avon goods, brighten up his complexion, and cover his scars, with a shocking admiration for Edward's skilled scissor cutting abilities, providing more leisure time for Bill. As the neighborhood wives appear at the Boggs house to ogle this unique creature, no, not the dinosaur, Edward, Peg invites the ladies and husbands back to the house later for a barbecue. As Edward is doing an excellent job cutting the icebox lettuce, he becomes transfixed by the can opener. Yeah, come on, they are pretty cool. And he has a flashback to where we see a very Tim Burton-ish cookie maker machine, and the inventor, played by the late Vincent Price. Price, who was one of the biggest classic horror actors, and also the bone-chilling cackle in Michael Jackson's Thriller, was an idol to Burton, to which he specifically wrote this part for him. Price was actually suffering from emphysema and Parkinson's at the time of filming, and this was the last cinematic movie he appeared in. We then jump back to the mid-century to the Boggs neighborhood barbecue, which brings classic jokes to poke fun at Edward, inviting him to a board game, but he can't cut. Joyce gets up to inspect Edward's hands, asking if his hands are hot or cold. Actually, Depp's scissors were made by the special effects artist Stan Winston, who also worked in Terminator, Jurassic Park, and Aliens, to name a few. The scissors were made from a safe, lightweight resin that were vacuumized to give the appearance of metal. For close-up shots, a mix of real scissors were used. The wives continue to force-feed Edward some 1960s Jello pudding-looking ambrosia. Apparently, this is one of the 2 times Depp became sick and set. From this scene, where she had to film over 20 takes and eating all this food, as well as running on the street in his leather outfit in 100-degree Florida weather with high humidity. Kim and the Scooby-Doo gang, including boyfriend Jim, played by the Breakfast Club alumni Anthony Michael Hall, return home early from camping with the cassette boombox. Ryder, coming up for high from working with Burton and Beetlejuice, was actually cast before Depp, pulling out of The Godfather Part 3. Kim's appearance and personality was very different to Ryder's previous character Lydia in Beetlejuice, or her own personal style. Ryder never fit in as a kid and was always picked on, so she couldn't resonate with Kim. Burton apparently used to chuckle at the sight of Ryder dressed up as Kim, on how different it was from her real persona. Kim proceeds to go into her bedroom, not initially seeing Edward, who is shaking, terrified on her bed. Kim eventually sees Edward. Edward freaks out and proceeds to pierce through the waterbed. After the commotion, everyone eventually calms down, and Bill proceeds to get Edward drunk off of lemonade, aka whiskey.
Good, isn't it?
Making it a great second impression to Kim. Edward continues on his career to make some more landscape Tupperwares for the neighbors, getting paid either in cookies or lemonade. Yes, real lemonade. Starts cutting dog's hair out of boredom. Word catches on, bringing all the dogs to the yard, and we see hair flying everywhere. Joyce, clearly obsessed, demands for Edward to cut her hair, calling it the most single thrilling experience of her whole life. Bringing all the women to the yard because they're like, it's better than yours. Yeah, she's hungry. And proceeds to cut the hair of all the rest of the neighborhood, saving Peg for last.
Edward cut it, isn't it wild?
Edward becomes a sensation and is interviewed with Peg on a talk show. Kim, Kevin, and Jim are watching from home, and we start to see Kim's admiration for Edward develop. When Edward is asked if he has a special lady in his life, he just freezes and short-circuits the microphone, to which Jim wishes that he could have taped that, since he would give one of his nuts to see that again. Joyce wants to recognize Edward's talent, making some moolah as well as other things, and tours Edward around a potential hair salon venue. Joyce sits Edward down and offers to model smocks for him, pops on the cassette player, and continues to strip, utilizing Edward's scissors to cut off her top button. As Edward trembles, they both fall backwards and allows Edward to leave. Rejection is never good, is it, Joyce? We definitely smell trouble. Edward, escaping Joyce, meets the Boggs for dinner across the street, and they ask how his day was, which he replies,
"And then she showed me the back room where she took all of her clothes off,"
catching the whole family off guard. Bill, skating over the comment, declares how proud he is of Edward and suggests to get a bank loan, to which Peg and Edward try, but no avail, so technically Edward has no credit because he doesn't actually exist. Meanwhile, Jim needs money for his own van and tries to convince Kim to ask Edward to break and enter into Jim's parents' house to steal, utilizing his scissors to pick the lock, with of course Edward stopping on the way to trim the hedges. The gang enters the house only for Edward to be locked inside, with the rest of them running away, even though Kim tried to go back to save Edward. Edward is freaking out. The police come to disarm the alarm, with Edward walking out with the police shouting to drop his weapons, to be only saved by the housewives explaining that those are actually his hands. I'm surprised the police didn't see him on TV or notice how much shrubbery has improved over the last couple of months. Peg and Bill meet Edward down at the police station, where Peg blames herself for getting Edward into this mess. Edward, very undeveloped and highly imaginative character, is released. We then see the neighbors, with their ever so stylish hair, start to turn on Edward and the Boggs family. Kim speaks to Edward, explaining that she tried to make Jim go back and thanks him for not telling anyone, where Edward says, "You're welcome," and then he knew it was Jim's house, and he did it because Kim asked him to. Jim then shows up and starts a fight with Kim. Edward takes his aggression out on the family's drape and wallpaper. Hey, it was time to remodel anyways. The Boggs family continues to try to help Edward, quizzing him on the right thing to do if he would hypothetically find a suitcase full of money.
What would you do?
We see here that Edward would pick the nice thing to do versus the right thing to do,
"Give it to my loved ones."
which further displays Edward's heart. Peg, super supportive, receives yet another haircut from Edward, as the untrue Me Too rumors are spreading around town about Edward from the one and only Joyce. As the family is preparing for the annual Boggs Christmas party, Edward is seen outside carving Kim as an angel, as Kim finally feels free and is dancing in the ice shavings. But by accident, her hand is sliced by Edward. Jim sees it, calls Edward a freak, causing Edward to run away. Bill pauses his fake snow stapling and tries to find Edward. Edward continues to rip off his clothes and waltzes down the street. Geez, those leather pants must have been uncomfortable. Feeling his rage, he cuts the topiary ballerina's leg and punctures the tire. Another great scene is when he carves out a devil bush in front of the extremist and judgy character Esmeralda. As the police in suburbia are now looking for Edward, Bill arrives back home to pick up Peg to help find Edward, and Kim stays back in case he returns. After Edward's tour around the block, he manages to meet Kim back at the house, where Kim asks Edward to hold her, which he responds, "I can't," and triggers a flashback to him and his inventor. His inventor made real hands for Edward, and he was planning on switching out the scissors, but the inventor dies, and Edward ends up slicing his own hands. We then flash forward to Edward holding Kim, and the feeling, that emotion of being loved, and they can finally hold someone after all this time. At the corner of Edward's eye, he sees Jim and the gang driving erratically. But oh no!
Kevin.
Right in the way of the van. So Edward rushes out and tackles Kevin to save him. Kevin, naturally shocked, freaks out, and then Edward accidentally cuts Kevin, as well as other neighbors to come to aid. Edward is scared, and Jim comes to fight, in which Edward slits Jim's arm. Kim tells Edward to run. Seriously, I love watching Depp run, teaching kids good values to point the scissors down when they waltz down that street. Edward makes it back up to his mansion, the police right behind him and the angry mob. Kim then hears a gunshot. The policeman shot his gun to defer the mob, saying it's all over and there's nothing more to see, but naturally a mob wants to investigate. Meanwhile at the mansion, Kim is an athletic runner and makes it up there before the rest of the mob. Thank goodness for that policeman distraction. Kim finds Edward sitting by the newspaper clippings upstairs, and she rushes to his side. Edward asks if the mob is coming, and if Kevin got hurt. Kim replies that Kevin was just scared and that she was afraid that Edward was dead. Oh, but wait, not Jim. Jim comes and shoots his gun at Edward but misses. Jim aims again and Kim pushes Jim over, and the gunshot hits the roof instead, falling on Edward. Jim continues to attack Edward, and Edward does some fantastic push-ups during the fight scene, where Kim comes in to save him. Kim tells Jim to stop it or I'll kill you myself. Jim hits Kim again. Edward runs over to check on Kim, with Jim yelling to stay away from her. This brings out further rage in Edward, and he uses his hands, his scissors, to stab Jim, and Jim falls to his death out the window. Oh crap, what have we done? Edward hears the mob coming, who will soon discover Jim's body. Edward then whispers, actually he always whispers,
"Goodbye."
They realize their love for each other, but it can never be, which results in one of their most romantic kisses of all time. To which Kim whispers back,
"I love you."
as this is breaking audience hearts everywhere. Kim runs down the Burton staircase, grabs a scissor-like hand to be confronted by the mob, to which Kim tells them Edward is dead. The roof caved in on him, and while she's looking at Jim, that they killed each other. Kim holds up the scissors hand for proof. Wow, Joyce, are you happy now? We then jump back to today's time, where we realize the grandmother is actually Kim. Look carefully, it's all in the eyes, and you can see Ryder under all that makeup. Kim declares she never would go back because she wants Edward to remember her the way she was, and then it never snowed until after that day. To which we see Edward up in the mansion, looking not a day older than 20, carving many ice sculptures. Alright, so now we're down to the awards. Okay, so for Best Kiss, there is really no contest here, as well there were not many kisses in the movie. But of course it has to go to the kiss showing pure love and first love. A fairy tale where a prince fails to save the princess, and true love is only sealed with true love's kiss. A very sobering but beautiful moment. And the most cringeworthy award goes to the scene where Joyce and Edward are at the beauty salon. You know what's happening, and Burton definitely adds in some humor with using scissors to cut the button in the shirt, and the line that Edward states later on, and then she showed me the back room where she took all her clothes off. However, the rejection Joyce felt by Edward triggers all the additional series of events, making the scene hard to rewatch. Alright, especially for this movie, we added in a third award, and that's for Best Topiary. There were over 24 topiaries created. All of them were not real, as they were made from chicken wire with fake greenery. Some of the topiaries were actually relocated to New York's famous restaurant, the Tavern on the Green, until 2009. The real question is, why is this not in the Smithsonian, as this was real movie magic? But the best topiary has to go to the Devil, where their eyes are created by the reflection of the religious candles through the window. So we made it through 2 films with 2 unique Boggs families. Show us some love. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tag that alert bell to dive into further awkward but sweet encounters of our favorite rom-coms. Also pop in your suggestions of which movies are your favorites. Until then, I'm Andy H, and this is Kiss Me. Pucker up.